Thanks for joining us here for this April 2025 energy update. I want to talk about integration, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the integration of eclipse energy, given that we have just come out of a lunar and a solar eclipse. But I want to say that the integration of anything is the most important part. I'm a huge believer that we can have an epiphany. We can get this epiphany through listening to a podcast or through journaling or meditation or an eclipse, through an engagement with a coworker, a friend, a partner. A shift happens when we integrate the epiphany that we just had. And I want to break that down for a second. If I go into meditation and I'm able to see something about myself, say it's something that I want to change, or it's something that I didn't recognize was there. Maybe I do a somatic session on myself and I recognize that I'm holding a story in my nervous system and in my body that isn't aligned with where I want to go. It's one thing to have the awareness and to be able to see it. It's another thing to do something with what I've learned. So if I go into meditation and maybe I see that I want to show up differently as a mom, I see something about myself that I want to change or grow into. It's one thing to have that awareness, to see that I want to change. It's another thing to integrate that awareness into my reality. If I'm not doing the integration, then the epiphany that I had is just that. It's an epiphany. It's not creating a shift in my reality. It's not creating a shift in my behavior. It's not creating a shift in my nervous system. It's not creating a shift in my reality. But the integration of what I've learned in whatever modality I'm using, journaling, meditation, somatics, whatever it is, if I don't do the integration, then it's just a thought pattern. I haven't engaged my nervous system. I haven't engaged my behavior. I haven't changed my reality. And I want to tie it back to eclipses. So we just came out of both a lunar and a solar eclipse in the month of March. And eclipses have long been known to help us release things that are holding us back from being the most authentic version of us, from being on our path or our purpose in life. And that's one of the reasons that the week leading up to an eclipse can be very chaotic for a lot of people. Because whatever it is that's in resistance to them being more aligned and authentic, oftentimes shows up around an eclipse. And so as those things are bubbling up in our reality, whether they are interactions, whether they are experiences, whether they are people, whether they are thought patterns, as they bubble up in our reality so that we can be present with them and purge that energy out of our nervous system, out of our energy body, out of our mind, and create a new reality. It gets a little bit chaotic for many people because whatever it is that's not aligned, that's not authentic, that's holding them back in life is oftentimes emotional. And so as we lean into eclipses, many people get really unsettled. That unsettledness is whatever it is that they've been holding on to, bubbling up in their reality. So if you had something that bubbled up in either the lunar or the solar eclipse, I want to make sure that you have a shift rather than just an epiphany. If one of the eclipses showed you something about yourself that you needed to see to bring yourself into deeper alignment, whether it's something you needed to let go or whether it's a way of being that you needed to let go of, or a thought pattern, or a story that you've been holding. If you're not doing the integration around it, then it's just an epiphany. The eclipse showed you something, possibly painful, possibly cool about yourself. Maybe the eclipse showed you what you authentically desire, but it's kind of scary to lean into our authentic desires. Maybe the eclipse showed you blocks that you have towards abundance or relationships or career or parenting or self-love. Don't allow it to just be an epiphany. Do the integration so that you can see a shift in your reality. And for many people, the integration looks like taking aligned action. So if I saw something about myself in the eclipse, and I have behavioral patterns that have been present around that epiphany that I had, the way that I'm going to move it into a shift is to challenge my own thought patterns, to challenge my own behavioral patterns, to create enough space inside of myself that I can observe myself as I'm engaging with whatever it is that the eclipse brought up for me, and challenge it. So, let's say that the eclipse showed me a way that I could be a better mom. Maybe I get dysregulated when my child is dysregulated. Maybe I get dysregulated when I'm overtired, and then I dysregulate my child. It's one thing to see that. It's another thing to create a shift in my reality where that's no longer my truth. So if I'm not taking aligned action towards regulating my nervous system, resourcing myself, if I've been able to see that when I'm under-resourced, meaning I haven't had enough water, I am not sleeping well enough, I'm not getting enough exercise, I'm not getting enough me time, then I am more likely to be dysregulated. And when I'm more dysregulated, or when I'm dysregulated, it will dysregulate my children. And so as a mom, my job is to do the work on myself so that I'm not dysregulating my child. It's one thing to see that. It's another thing to start prioritizing drinking water, taking walks, doing yoga, sleeping, regulating my nervous system, purging energy out of my nervous system that has been held there for years and years and years. I need to take the aligned action from whatever it was that I saw in the eclipse. And you can replace the word eclipse with meditation, podcast, book, whatever it is that you've gotten your epiphany through. Make sure that you're doing the integration so that you can see a shift in your reality. Take action. And sometimes the action looks like silence. Sometimes the action looks like challenging your own thought patterns or the stories that are coming up in your mind. Sometimes it looks like prioritizing self-care. Sometimes it looks like applying for the job or looking at a vacation or claiming a desire and starting to take steps towards that desire. I think that there is so much focus for us culturally on getting the epiphany and not as much focus on the integration. And that's where the real power happens for us. It's one thing to see something. It's another thing to take action towards change, towards being a different version of you, towards speaking to yourself differently, towards speaking to people in your reality differently, catching the thought patterns that say that you're not enough or you can't do it, money's bad, whatever it is that your mind is telling you, to be able to catch it and recognize it's just a story. It's just a story that you're telling yourself, and challenge the story. See if there are other stories that feel better to you. What's interesting about humans is that we will take a small number of facts, we'll create a story around it, and that story creates the meaning out of the human experience. That meaning makes us feel a way in the human experience. And so if we don't like our life, if it doesn't feel good, start challenging the stories that we're telling ourselves, the meaning that we're making out of the human experience. And a lot of that work is the integration work after an epiphany. It is the work of challenging your own thought patterns and saying, that's just an old thought pattern. It's an old belief system that is being held in my mind and in my nervous system. And I don't have to listen to it. There is a bunch of evidence that is in opposition to that story. Sometimes it is creating some structure around a routine or a practice that we need to put in place. And maybe it starts with challenging the thought pattern that I don't have enough time to exercise. Challenge the thought pattern and then create some structure for yourself. Whether that is putting on your schedule workouts, whether it is getting up earlier, whether it is prioritizing exercise over scrolling on social media or watching TV or doing something else in your reality. It starts by challenging the thought pattern and then taking aligned action. And so I wanted to make sure to have this conversation because an eclipse can bring up so much for so many of us. They're so powerful. They are so powerful. And leveraging them for everything that they're worth so that you can be the best version of you, so that you can create the reality that you want to be living, requires the integration. And so I wanted to take a little sacred pause and just bring our awareness to just how important the integration is of whatever epiphany we've had, so that it can create a shift inside of us and inside of the reality that we are creating on a daily basis. So whether it was the eclipse, a meditation, a podcast, a book, a conversation, a course, a class, a retreat, whatever it was that created an epiphany for you, are you doing the work to allow it to be a shift? We really appreciate you being here with us, and I hope that you have a wonderful month of April filled with integration of whatever it is that you got out of the eclipse or any other profound experience that you had recently.